welcome to the Happier Hour. And boy, are we happier tonight because we have the most wonderful, amazing, and talented guest tonight, Dr. Cara Natterson. One of my very first Morph Mom interviews from years and years ago in California, who thankfully still had faith in me and decided, yes, she would come back on again because it wasn't so bad the first time around. Cara is a famous and incredibly well-known pediatrician, as I said, out from California, the founder of Worry-Proof Consulting. She's also a puberty expert, so who knows what we can get into tonight. She's a New York Times best-selling author of the Care and Keeping of You series, which has sold over 6 million copies. She's a speaker, a consultant, and 2020, she's now an entrepreneur, a co-founder of Umla. And it's a company where concerned with making puberty more comfortable, literally. So we got a lot to talk to about that tonight as well. And we can't wait to get into all of this. And Cara, it's a thrill to have you here. It's a thrill to have all of my co-hosts tonight, Elizabeth, Stephanie, Kathy, Dina, and Seema. Can't wait to get started, but we know we can't really start until Stephanie starts us off with the cocktail of the night.
Okay, here we go. I've just been in a tequila mood lately, so I'm going with it. And tonight I made an Asian dinner. I made a black miso cod for dinner with this Asian cucumber salad, and I was inspired with the cucumbers. So all I have in here is fresh lime juice. It's 1 whole lime and a couple really thin slices of cucumber. You can put these ingredients in a blender and you can make a frozen margarita. You can mix it with ice, but I'm just gonna muddle it because that's just what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like I'm in a muddly kind of mood. I feel like smashing something. Just kidding.
It's off to a good start.
Yeah, just muddle, and then I apologize if this doesn't seem that creative. It's kind of if you know me, I have a standard base, my margarita base, but I am deviating. I'm just doing I'm going to do Casamigos Reposado, which it's a more aged and it's a little more smoky. I'm going to do 2 ounces of tequila, and I am going to do a little less than half an ounce of Cointreau. If you're not familiar, it is an orange liqueur, and it adds like a nice little citrus, component. Not too much, just that much, just enough. And I'm going to shake it up. I'm going to pour it over ice in my Morph Mom cup, and I'm going to enjoy everything that Cara has to share with us. Cheers, Cara.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody at home.
Being here. Delicious stuff.
Here's to a good year going forward for 2021. And what a great way to start it here, Cara. All right, so as I mentioned, Cara, we met years and years ago. And at that time, I think it was with Worry-Proof Consulting, but you were also writing at the time. So how did, as a pediatrician, how did you branch off into so many different things between Worry-Proof Consulting and becoming a New York Times bestselling author of all the books through American Girl doll that we all know and needed to deal with all of our kids?
It was a lot of luck. And just right place, right time. The short version of the story is that I was in practice, general pediatrician. I really loved my job. I loved my patients. I loved my partners. But I had 2 young kids at the time, and I'm married to a cardiologist. And every morning we would flip a coin to see who got to go to work on time and who had to stay and wait for our daycare situation to solve itself. And then whoever had to stay behind was late already, and you'd run to the hospital and you'd round on your patients, and then you'd see patients all day in the office. And the way I like to practice medicine, then I'd go back to the hospital, and I was fully outsourcing all the care of my children. And it worked really well for some of my friends who are also pediatricians. I could not find balance. And I had written a couple books while I was in practice, kind of on the side. They were just parent care books, and I just thought I would exercise that muscle. And literally it was one day I had an epiphany, and I thought, I just have to pivot for a little while and figure this out, because I am not doing well. It was actually a mom brought her child in, and the child had like 105 fever, and she started bawling, and she said to me, "Oh, you're so lucky. you know what to do when your child has a fever of 105. And I started bawling in the office and I said, my child does have a fever of 105 and I'm here and you're here. And that was it. I was done. And I just started writing full time, and it was a very lucky series of breaks. I put myself on a book tour. I took myself to little preschools all in the LA area and spoke to people for hours and hours and hours at 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And one night someone happened to be there from Mattel, and Mattel owns American Girl, and the rest was history. And I've been writing now with American Girl for 10 years. We're celebrating my 10-year anniversary with them in 2021. And actually, I literally just opened a box of our newest book that comes out in a week. So that's very exciting too. I wrote a book called Guy Stuff, which is the care and keeping of you for boys, and boys have feelings too. So we just wrote Guy Stuff Feelings. It's out next week. It's really a nice.
Congratulations! That's awesome.
Thank you. It's so fun. Yeah,
And,
like
and boys go through puberty too, not just girls.
Yes, it turns out they do, and it's quite noticeable. So that's my life story in a nutshell.
So what made you, and you said it was wanting to sort of figure out a balance being with the kids, but writing about the puberty, like what was that? Did you see a need, like in speaking to the parents, or like how did that start?
I've always really enjoyed tweens and teens as patients in conversation. Pediatricians, we like kids of all ages, but they're interesting and they're very open to knowledge and information. If you ask them what they want to know, they're very hungry for knowledge. And so I always found that a group that I related to particularly well and that was particularly underserved. There's so much for the little kids. There's so much for young adults. Oh my God, going through puberty, it's like, how every middle school looks like a box and there are no windows and it's dark, right? That's what life in puberty looks like. That is what they are, just left alone in this little box. And there was this book, The Care and Keeping of You, which preceded me at American Girl. And my first day of practice, my partner said to me, you need to know 3 things about pediatrics that you never learned in training. The first thing you need to know is how to treat pinworms, right? You don't learn that. The second thing, the second thing you need to know is all about lice. I'm like, oh, okay, great. And the third thing you need to know is about this book called The Care and Keeping of You. And it had come out, I started practice in 2000, and it had come out in 1998. And it was already this cult book because it spoke to tween girls. And so when I went to work with American Girl, the concept was there is so much more potential here. The kids ask me for more and more and more. And I mean, what a victory when we actually got a boy book from a company called American Girl, right? That was amazing. But my editor is a mom of a son, and she and I from day one, we were like, okay, let's get this boy stuff, because they're even more alone in the process than girls. So that's sort of why that age group and why that path. And I will tell you that my daughter, who is now 17, was entering puberty as I was first coming out with the Care and Keeping books. There is nothing worse in life than your mom being a puberty expert, except if your mom is a puberty expert who's like on television about puberty and your experience. She just could not believe that was my life and couldn't I have just stayed in the office and been someone's pediatrician? That would have been fun. But now we laugh about it. So
with COVID and how difficult it's been, first of all, socialization in general. And at this time, I would think a lot of these kids, you sort of learn from each other. Oddly, I mean, maybe that is one of the things you are learning from each other, or maybe helps you to get through this. Have you seen something in the kids, how it's hurting them socially as far as almost this puberty stage, like not having that interaction, they may not even realize how important it is?
The list of negative impacts of COVID is long and is about to get a lot longer, because as we hopefully start pulling back from this pandemic and we start getting it under control and we all start to see a light at the end of the tunnel, only then, and once we're through the tunnel, will we really be able to assess the impact of what has happened to our kids, which is so profound. I don't even have words for it. It's so profound. Different in every home. There's just, but universal threads. The most fascinating thing about puberty and pandemic to me is that I wrote a parenting book called Decoding Boys, all about boys going quiet and how you talk to your sons. Pandemic came and parents started calling me. My son is talking to me. I was like,
Really?
Mine too. That's so crazy. And I think as it turns out, they had no one to talk to. So there was that. But, they went out into the world for 8 or 10 or 12 hours a day, and they would wear this exterior that, again, every boy is different. There's gender-based stereotypes are never right on, but there was this very common thread that you would see through boys who were transforming, or frankly, boys who weren't, right? Late bloomers, early bloomers, didn't really matter. They wore this exhausting exterior garb, and then they'd come home, and instead of being like the classic female who would, I want to talk about all of it and analyze all of it, they just go shut their door. They're just done. It's exhausting to carry that around all day. And so in shedding that, I think they just would shut down the one group who loved them the most and would have their back the most, but also the group that would be the most wounded when they didn't talk to them. And it created this cycle. And, it's generations of males that talk about not talking. So there has to be something hormonal. It has to be beyond just socialized. But in pandemic, when they didn't go to school and they didn't wear that armor all day long and they weren't putting on that, something shifted a little, enough that parents started to share it, and not for all boys. And certainly plenty is happening on screens with pandemic, making this complicated. But I have noticed in my own home a very dramatic shift in communication. And that's the one silver lining of all this.
How great is that to have one positive thing, especially at that age, that vulnerable age where you're so worried that something happy has come.
That's right.
And in line with something happy that has come, and while we're all spending a lot of time at home, as you mentioned, I'm going to ask Elizabeth to share things that we can do, maybe with our sons who are now speaking to us, and daughters as well, hopefully, and anyone out there, or maybe not, no one's speaking to us and we need something to do. So Elizabeth, how can we spend the time, since it appears we're going to be here for a little bit longer at home, trying to find things to do?
Well, it's funny that I could spend like hours talking with you, doctor, as my daughter just turned 13 last week. So we're in the midst of and she's an only child, so that's really fun during a pandemic. Some of the joy and the silver lining we found are these long walks, and so we walked to the bookstore, and the latest one, now this is really exciting, and it's not a new book, but it just became in the public domain. So The Great Gatsby by it's going to be everywhere, musicals, everything now. So she saw that and she's like, ooh, this is really cool. Maybe I should read this. So she picked up this, and she's almost done and very excited about that. So this is high on my list, as well as the movie, either version, Leo or Robert Redford. Take a pick. Pharaoh, so brilliant, 1970s.
Take them both.
Yeah, take them both. It's all good. It's something to watch with your kids or whoever. The other is on that same line of gentlemen. There's a new series on Netflix, if you've not seen, it's called Lupin, Lupin. And it's a French series about a gentleman thief. And it's quite fascinating. The first episode takes place in the Louvre. So it's a great escape, and I highly recommend it. My daughter and I just watched the first episode. The other thing that puberty has found my child is all of a sudden she woke up at 13 and likes tea. So we are finding tea everywhere. And a friend of mine told me about this new tea company. Well, it's not really new, but she found it, called Kusmi, Kusmi, Kusmi tea. It's a French tea, and you can get it online, and it's adorable and great little tea bags and a super great gift. And my final tip is, I always love my podcasts, and lately I just was obsessed with Brene Brown and Melinda Gates talking to each other. It's fascinating.
You heard it here. Now you guys have stuff to do until next Wednesday. I want it all done. And a book report when you come back. And speaking of Melinda Gates, and brings me to Bill Gates and maybe the finances of the world, and clearly the segue to our financial tip of the week, Kathy.
Hi, thanks, Kathleen. Yes, so that's very funny. It's all about money, right? But there's stress. We were talking about stress. We're talking about communication. Cara's talking about how important it is to talk about a taboo topic with, young people, and that, sex ed is a very uncomfortable topic. Another taboo topic that we have that we don't talk about is money. And I do think that if you think about these young girls and boys that Cara has such expertise and knowledge and sharing that with her new book and her previous books as well, I would say being able to talk to your children about money is super important. It helps set the foundation for them to be comfortable about money, to understand how it works, and to be able to make good decisions going forward. So I think it's so important to do that. One thing that you can do, even like somebody, Stephanie, like you with young little ones, you can talk to them about, we want to maybe make a donation somewhere. Maybe you do it, I think we talked about this before, around the Thanksgiving table. We'd like to make a donation, and we're going to talk about where you would like to make a donation and why. And each family member can come to the table with a particular cause that's important to them, whether they're 4 or 14 or 24, and share what's important to them. And you will be blown away to find out what your family members care about that you might not have known. And it's a great way to share passion, to tie it into money, and to impact and giving. So that would be my recommendation. Make money not a taboo topic either.
Oh, I love that idea. And finding what someone's passionate about and turning it into something good. Oh, I love that idea. And speaking about finding something out there that we're passionate about and that's good and that we want to bring recognition to, Dina each week does that for us. So Dina, who this week should we be thinking about and helping and hoping for?
So this week I'm highlighting a business that was started by 2 dads after they lost their income, took a hard hit. 2 entrepreneurs working in restaurants and concerts, 2 of the industries hardest hit by COVID. So we all love a good bonfire, and with COVID, we're all having to gather socially outdoors. So these guys have young children, and they thought they were just Googling ideas, basically looking at e-commerce, looking at Shopify, what's hot, no pun intended, because this is a bonfire story. So they found things like flour, remember flour, and bikes, you couldn't get them, and fire pits were sold out. So they said, fire pits are, they're just dangerous for kids. They're also, they take forever to put out. So they came up with an idea for a mobile fire pit called City Bonfire. Looks like a candle, but it's basically a mini bonfire contained within a tin that you can use anywhere outside. It has 3 to 4 hours of burn time. It's easy to light and extinguish. You extinguish it by just covering it up. And it's great for your backyard if you don't have a fire pit. It's also great if you do have a fire pit and you don't want to deal with the whole hassle. This is so quick and easy. And so, they did some product development work. They launched this in August of 2020 after dealing with some shipping delays with the tin and dealing with supplies. But they had no experience in this and came up with an idea just by getting to know what the trends were and what people wanted, and became entrepreneurs overnight. And what I love about their story is that they were able to hire some of their former coworkers who also lost their jobs. And now they have a warehouse. They started in one of the dad's garages. They're 2 dads from Maryland with young kids. And they started in Maryland in their garage. And now they have a warehouse, and they're employing a bunch of their former coworkers. And this is a pretty hot product. It's getting a lot of buzz. You can get this for $21.95, and you get 4 hours of burn time. So you can gather for wine or do s'mores. You can get the s'mores kit with it for $30.95.
Oh, that's smart.
which is discounted. And, entrepreneurs are always, pivoting and thinking about what's next. So they're already thinking about the next thing, which is like a eucalyptus themed bonfire in a tin. And also this is great, that for if you're a city dweller and you don't have a backyard, because this just can only be used outdoors though. And unlike a candle, the entire wax here, non-toxic, turns into a flame. So it's actually a pretty good flame. Like you feel like you're in you've got a fire pit. So the website is citybonfires.com, and they're also for sale in local shops pretty much across the country.
Amazing. And speaking of entrepreneurs, we've been talking to Cara about, and we have so much more to talk to her about puberty and everything else you've done as a pediatrician, but you're also an entrepreneur with the most recent company, Umla. And in a minute, I'm going to ask Seema to really delve into the real Cara. But I just want to quickly, and we're going to go back into it again, tell us a little bit about Umla first.
Sure. So UMLA stands for Order of Magnitude Los Angeles. And it is a company that was dreamed up actually many years ago when my daughter started going through puberty and needed a bra. There was nothing on the market that did anything for her, right? Nothing worked. And so I just skipped the whole thing. And I got a call from one of the moms in our 4th or 5th grade class. And she said, you write these books. Can you just tell me what bra you get her? And I said, I don't get her one. And she said, well, first of all, she needs one. She said, second of all,
check.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's like the cobbler's children, 0 shoes. And she said, second of all, my mother sewed everything I ever wore growing up. She said her parents were Singer sewing reps, and they went door to door with these sewing machines. She said, my mom actually said the same thing. She said, there's nothing. So she sewed something. Can you just take a look at it and tell me if it's healthy? Which is a really interesting question for a bra. You don't usually hear that. Long story short, the two girls who didn't really know each other get together for a play date, but it's really to try on the bra. And at the end of the play date, they decide they're going to be best friends because one bra, two girls. It was the most comfortable, most functional thing they'd ever tried on. We both have full-time jobs. It took us a while to recognize that we had something on our hands, but we are now launched. We have a bra that is made from the softest material you've ever felt in your entire life. It's nude on one side and there's a print on the other, and it's reversible. There are no clips, there are no clasps, there are no wires. But most importantly, we've patented a design that gently compresses breast buds and actually adult breast tissue now, because all the moms who tried it on loved it so much. I wear it all day, every day. It's so comfortable. So now we've aged all the way up. But it hugs without binding. And, a lot of girls will go into sports bras because that's the only thing that stops that kind of awkward torpedo type look that's going on for the first 3 or 4 years of puberty. And we fix that. So the Umbra is our first product. We actually have masks too that are filtered, super soft, reversible. And we just threw those on the production line as we were just starting to launch because there was a need. But we'll go into other puberty related products that address need, right? You need comfortable, you need soft, you need things that don't smell or that don't hold on to smell. You also need products that are going to honor changing bodies and honor different body shapes and sizes. And our nude colors, we have a whole spectrum of nude colors. Most tween garments are either white or they're this kind of like color that's inconsistent with any living being. It's this weird yellow, gray, I don't know what it is. So we didn't do that. What's been fascinating is this generation, Gen Z, they don't really care about matching their skin tone. I'm fascinated. Like the fairest girls might want the darkest brown because that's super cool, and vice versa. And so you can match your skin tone if you want, but you can go with someone else's if you prefer. It's pretty fun.
Okay, my first question is, where were you 40 years ago?
I'm getting them right now. I'm already working online.
I'm telling you, I've never been so comfortable in my life. That is really why I started this whole thing.
So they're really made for the tweens, but we can buy them as well, or
yeah, we size them based on one circumferential measurement at the nipple line. So they fit down. Our smallest size is a 24-inch, which is essentially a 7 or 8 year old, standard 7 or 8 year old rib cage. But we size all the way up to 38 inches right now, and we're going bigger. So if you think about it, someone who is a 34C can fit into a 38-inch circumference, or someone who is a 32D. Just in case you didn't know this, I did not know this before I started. The way bras are sized, it's your rib cage measurement under your bust. The under bust measurement is one measure, and then the nipple line is a second measure. And the difference between those two in inches is the letter. So 1 inch difference is A, 2 inch difference is B, 3 inches is C, right? No one ever teaches you that. No. So we don't think that's necessary for girls who have, breast buds that are this big, but have the ability to poke through anything. Right? Yeah. So that's the Umbra. Yeah.
I love it.
I think we need a book. You do the puberty book, but we might need a book. Like, a lot of a menopause book too, you can maybe throw out there. But while we're talking about this and what drove you to that and all the amazing things that you're doing, we want to know a little bit behind the scenes of Cara. So Seema, take it away, Cara. Now we're going to really learn what's behind all that Cara does.
Okay. Hi, Cara. Oh my gosh. I have to tell you, I appreciate everything you've written. I have 4 adult boys. So I could have used you about 10 years ago.
That's so sweet. Boys love their mothers.
But still, I'm taking wisdom from it now, still. So this is the part of the show where we get to know you a little bit better, like personally, but it'll be really quick. And if you don't want to answer, we'll move on. Okay. So real fast. What is your favorite form of exercise?
Oh, yoga.
Oh, nice. And your favorite carb, bread, pasta, rice, or potatoes?
All.
Awesome. What is something you dislike that everyone else loves?
Messes.
Ooh. What was
my family's a mess. They're not super organized.
What was your wedding song?
Oh, that's funny. We did not have one.
Oh, even better.
We did not have a wedding song or a dance floor.
Nice. That's good.
Because we're not that great on our feet, but we're very, yeah.
Okay, good. That's good. What's one thing you transfer from bag to bag besides your keys and wallet?
Oh, phone.
Good answer. What is one meal that you love to cook for your family?
So we are in LA. We eat salads constantly. So there is a different version of a salad every night, every day.
What is your perfect Saturday?
Okay, well, I would like to sleep past 6. So that would be a good start.
I hear you.
Right? And then waking up and finding that my children actually walked the dogs. Is this the fantasy Saturday? I'm going full fantasy. Okay. And then no email.
Oh,
that's the perfect Saturday. A hike, a walk, a run, and just no email.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
Mess. My family's mess.
All right, here's one. East Coast or West Coast?
Oh, West Coast.
Yeah. All right. Because I know you were educated in the East Coast.
That's true. I do like East Coasters a lot.
Better.
Favorite condiment?
Jalapenos, pickled jalapenos.
Oh, love you. Cats or dogs?
Oh, dogs.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Nice. Woo! We got one, Elizabeth. Beer, wine, or cocktails?
Wine.
Well, thank you so much. And I'll make sure I will show up on your perfect Saturday and not send you an email.
There we go. We'll go for a walk.
So for all those out there that are trying to figure this out, Cara is nothing else but a model to us all, an inspiration that we can all do this. You just kind of have to take your steps, figure it out, and keep trying. Or better yet, keep morphing.